Welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast, where we discuss Dynasty strategy, rankings, and all things NFL. So get ready to geek out on fantasy football with your host, Rich Dotson.
And welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm Rich Dotson. He's Matt O'Hara.
Hey.
He's Garret Price.
How's it going?
And we have a game show, our first game show of the off season. If you are new to the Dynasty Nerds Podcast, once the off season, there's no off season, but once the rookie draft settled down, we like to sprinkle in like once a month a nice game show episode. Tied in, we have many different games that we play throughout the years. We've got about 5 or 6 of them. Garret, what is on the agenda for today's game show?
All right, today we this is the second time doing this one. We did this one once last year, and it was a hit. So we're doing Boomin, backup, or bust. We're going to take a look at 3 different players that might not be the biggest names in Dynasty Fantasy Football, but definitely could have value depending on how things go. So we're going to pick of the 3 guys, which one we think has the best chance to be Boomin, which one's probably just going to be a backup that maybe you could play sometimes, but you're not confident in, and which one's going to be a bust, like might not even be on your roster in a year or two. And then we're going to go to Old Faithful, the game that we probably play the most, the Isaiah Likely-O-meter. So those are the 2 games for today.
All right. So let's go ahead and dive into game 1, host Garret.
All right. Game 1, Boomin, backup, or bust. I'm going to give you 3 players. Number 1, we're going to start at the running back position. Isaiah Pacheco, Brian Robinson, and DeAndre Swift. Which one will be Boomin? Which one will be a backup? And which one will be a bust?
We have to pick a boom out of those 3.
You have to. Somebody's got a boom, in theory.
To me, I think this is pretty easy for me. I would go DeAndre Swift, Boomin, right? They didn't bring any clear competition for him currently. I still believe Nick Chubb will sign there. They'll bring another running back. But in the meantime, it's a Ben Johnson offense where we saw his offense could 100% certainly thrive with 2 running backs. Like, does that mean I believe in DeAndre Swift long-term? But there's not a single running back you listed that I do believe in long-term. Correct. So for this year, I think the best, highest boom goes to Dynamite would be DeAndre Swift. And with the backup, I would say Isaiah Pacheco, right? Like, I am a little bit worried about like his injury history the last couple of years. They did re-sign Kareem Hunt. They're bringing Rashard Smith. We'll see if he gets involved in the passing game, which we know Hunt can do. So I think he's a nice backup running back. And for me, the bust would be Brian Robinson. And it's more because I kind of think JMS is going to end up being the starter there come midway season.
And I'm with you there. And I just don't think, long term that Brian Robinson is the guy that they want there, right? I feel like in that Cliff Kingsbury offense, they're looking for a different kind of back than him. I think they're okay using him for now as a bruiser and stuff like that when they need that. But I don't really see that being their long-term solution. So I agree. That is the same order I would have it in for all of the same reasons.
So
and then my stuff sprinkled on top. There.
So the interesting thing about all 3 of these guys is all 3 of them did not have a significant running back added to their running back room, but all 3 of them did have a 7th round running back added to the room this year. So I was curious which one made you the most nervous or not. The funny part is I would agree. I think DeAndre Swift is the boom, but I'm also, of all of the backup running backs that were drafted in the 7th round, I also think Kyle Monunga is the one I'm the most interested in. So I think this has most to do with the Bears offense. I think that's the thing that really makes those players potentially interesting. I'm going to go with Brian Robinson as my backup. He's just been very solid, very steady year after year. He's not as flashy, and he doesn't have I feel like Isaiah Pacheco has had some bigger individual games, but week in, week out, he's just a steady Eddie. So if I had to trust one as my backup this year, I feel like I can trust Brian Robinson a skosh more, and then I'll have Isaiah Pacheco as my bust. But don't feel great about any of these 3 guys, but I think Swift's definitely the one that has the highest upside of the group.
Yeah, I would list all three of those as unless DeAndre Swift is looking like elite in this offense where like there's potential he stays. But even then I'm probably moving. These are all like window sells for me. Like when's the right time I get
Totally.
off from under
Week
this
4,
guy?
week 5.
I mean, literally whenever, like the first like option I have,
Real
like,
opportunity.
yeah, and willing to.
I mean, off-season fluff piece type of moves or what?
Yeah,
Like
I mean,
anything.
yeah, I mean, Robinson and Pacheco to me fall in that kind of line of like once I can move them, like unless I'm a contender and doing okay, and I kind of need that running back depth. Outside of that, and even that's like I might be willing to like risk it. I'm willing to like take just about whatever I can get. Right, like if a second round door pick opens up on the doorstep, like I'd be so happy with that, and especially like again, I know I'm pushing. I've been saying this a lot. I'm pushing a lot of my draft capital like what I want to get into my portfolio is the 27 class. So I love to find those guys. It's like, hey man, like I don't even want your pick next year. Can I get your second in 2027? I'm gonna give you this older running back that you obviously kind of need, which is gonna better my chance in 2027 that second round pick to be higher. I'm looking for those windows right away with those players.
Absolutely. All right, let's go to the wide receiver position and let's look at a group of rookies here. Pat Bryant, Jalen Royals, Elic Ayomanor. So just a reminder for you guys and the folks out there, Pat Bryant went in the 3rd round to the Denver Broncos. Jalen Royals went in the 4th round to Kansas City. And Elic Ayomanor went in the 4th round to Tennessee.
So I'm gonna go. Man,
It's just easy for me too.
this one's easy for you.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't like any of those. I mean, Jalen Royals is the guy I like the most. He's in the worst situation to
Agree.
perform fantasy wise. So I don't know that I could put him anywhere other than backup with hopes that he'll do something. Then it's Pat Bryant as the boom. Who knows? Like, or Elic. I don't like either one of those other guys as the boom. That's why I'm having a hard time. I guess I'll pick Pat Bryant because Sean Payton's gushing about him, talking about how he's Michael Thomas or shades of Michael Thomas and all that kind of good stuff. And I'm gonna go bust because Elic, while he flashes well, is a very inconsistent player. But I think there's a case that could be made that he could be the boom because what's in front of him and the fact that when he flashes, he does some really good things. But I'll stick with Pat as my boom, I guess. Pat Bryant is my boom, and Royals as my backup, and Elic as my my bust.
Yeah, I'm with you, Matt. Where I think either Elic or Pat could be the boom, right? Like obviously Pat Bryant, Cortland Sutton's on the last year of his deal. They took him in the 3rd round. It's good, really good draft capital. Sean Payton's talking him up, which again, Sean Payton talks up a lot of people that don't pan out as well. He's talking about Lucas Call last year, and he didn't even caught a ball. But you're right. It's like he's at the highest draft capital. He's in a very good situation for targets. So good chance to boom there. I'm gonna take him as my boom, and I'm gonna put Elic Ayomanor as my backup because he still has that potential to be turn into that number 1 guy. 4th round draft capital. Tennessee does not have a lot of weapons outside of Calvin Ridley. Yes, undrafted they brought Xavier Restrepo in the retrip package with Ward, but he's still an undrafted player, right? Where they invested in Elic Ayomanor. So I'll put him in my backup. And you're right, out of the tape, I like Jalen Royals the most, but he's just in a worse situation. And this is where like the pre-draft status where the NFL draft could change your opinion of players and like change those tiers and have people jump up is because of a situation like this. I like Jalen Royals tape a lot. His draft capital is not horrendous, but they have last year's 1st round pick and Xavier Worthy. They had the previous year's 2nd round pick, Rashee Rice, who looked absolutely fantastic his rookie year. And they still got Travis Kelce there. So for me, the opportunity for Jalen Royals to be any kind of consistent fantasy receiver is a 2-step process. 1, he needs a player ahead of him to get hurt. And then 2, he then needs to produce, right? Like, and still, just because that player got hurt means he's no longer the 4th option. He jumped somehow to the 2nd. So, and then obviously it needs to be a receiver that gets hurt. So, I like the player. He's a long-term, like long shot. right? Like one of those classic player of, hey man, I really enjoyed his tape, thought he could definitely been something. And that turns out in the long scheme of Dynasty, looking back, it was never that. Doesn't mean he's a bad NFL player, but not the Dynasty player you were hoping for. So when I'm looking at Boom backup, these are players I want to roster and carry over my roster. I could easily see Jalen Royals if I have a loaded team and I have a 2-year taxi squad rights and it's time to take him off my taxi squad, but I don't have a lot of room. Like, okay, I can see myself cutting Jalen Royals. Just the juice isn't there.
We're 3 for 3 on Pat Bryant being the boom. I think, I mean, he was the 10th pick of the 3rd round. So it wasn't even like he was like barely made it in. Like they used some legitimate draft capital on him. And partly I was the highest of the group on him. So I didn't mind his tape. I actually thought his tape was solid. Nothing great. Like he still went higher than I expected him to go. But I liked some of the things. I liked his releases off the line and things like that. So I think there is some room here. And when you look at like Courtland Sutton, they're very similar style players. So especially if Sutton moves on, he could like profile as that same type of guy, just move right into the Courtland Sutton spot. So I think he's the easiest boom, which is interesting because he's actually the lowest ADP wise of these 3 guys. He's actually a really good value on Sleeper. I've gotten him in the 5th round several times, 4th round in some places. And then there are times where like at like pick 11, 12 in the 3rd, I'll just take him just to make sure that I get him, just because I think he's a really, really good value right now. I struggle with who my backup would be because I'm like somewhere right in between you guys. I'm with Matt on like, I want to stick to my guns on like Royals was the better player that I evaluated. So like I want to put him higher, but I just have a hard time doing it in a room where I just don't know where there's going to be realistic fantasy production, where with Ayomanor, at least there's a path. So I think I'm going to put Ayomanor there, but I don't feel good about it. Like both of them are tricky for me, but I do like Pat Bryant quite a bit. Let's move to quarterback here. Let's do a quarterback one. Sam Darnold, Bryce Young, Justin Fields, Boomin, backup, bust.
I mean, so those are all interesting because those are all guys I want on my roster. Or like the last couple of guys we're talking about, I could go with it without. But I think the clear cut boom in here is Justin Fields. You know what he offers. You know, complete opposite of what we said before. Like, I really love the tape. Like his NFL skill set has not, matured into an NFL caliber quarterback, right? His accuracy still never really caught up to him. Not the best thrower of the football, but boy, is he dynamic with his legs. So, he repairs with Garrett Wilson, his old college wide receiver as well. And when this guy just plays and he gets a start on the NFL field, like he's not really helping his NFL teams a ton, but oh gosh, is he helping our dynasty teams tremendously. Like top 8 fantasy production out of the quarterback position is what you get out of Justin Fields healthy. So to me, that's a big boom. When it goes to Sam Darnold and Bryce Young, these are pretty equals in my eyes. So I can cause one a backup, one a bust. I would say due to the history of Sam Darnold and only really doing it under Kevin O'Connell and looked really good doing it, but still, I'm more of a believer in that system and the weapons around him. Like just why Nick Mullins looked good there. Kirk Cousins looked really good there. It's why I believe in James McCarthy so much. I don't think he has to be the best quarterback. I think all he has to do is just operate that system, a la like a Brock Purdy. Like just execute the system and you'll be just fine. So I think Sam Darnold has a much bigger bust rate chance than Bryce. And I'll say that also not because of like, this, I think his leash is a lot smaller, right? They invested in Jalen Milroe, not a lot of guaranteed money in them. Bryce Young's first 4 years of the league are 100% guaranteed, number 1 overall, so it's good money. He looked better the second half of the year anyways as well. So like if I had to keep one or the other right now, is the way I'm kind of looking at this one on my dynasty roster, I would keep Bryce Young over Sam Darnold, which could be a mistake. But I just feel like there's just a little bit more security with Bryce Young over Sam Darnold. But very close.
I don't listen. I think this is a hard. This is a very tough one for me. I don't know that I believe enough in Justin Fields to even call him a boom. I just don't love the situation there. I don't love the Jets franchise from kind of the owner down. It doesn't feel good.
Really fair.
And I don't think this is the place that a quarterback goes to like resurrect their career. I just don't. So I cannot with any good faith put him in the boom, which leaves me in a real tough position because I don't think either of these other two guys are going to boom. So I'm going to go Sam Darnold by default on the boom. I don't think he's going to boom, but I have to put somebody there. So I'm going to put him there, and I think Bryce Young has shown enough that he is a backup, which just leaves Justin Fields as unfortunately the bust. And it's just due to his circumstances, and really landing with the Jets, I don't think is going to be good for anybody.
And they're all so close to me and cheers. Like I have no argument. Matt, you're wrong on that. Like I totally get that too.
Idiot.
Yeah.
No, it's funny. We're gonna have 3 completely different ones this time. So I did end up putting Sam Darnold as my boom. Just because I do like a lot of the pieces in the Seattle offense. We'll see how good that offensive line is this year. That's the biggest worry for me, I think. But
Sam needs a good offensive line. He needs to be protected.
Yeah. So that is my biggest worry. Although the Vikings offensive line, if I remember correctly, wasn't amazing, but it was a good system for getting the ball out quick and things like that. But I do think he was one of the most sacked quarterbacks last year, if I remember correctly.
Flint Kubiak is going to be running a similar system, not exactly the same, but similar.
Yeah. Yep. So I feel, he got the better contract out of him and Justin Fields. He was the first one off the market. So I'm going to give him the slight edge, but then I'm going to go Justin Fields just because I think he will always, if he does not boom, which I think is possible. He's got the raw talent and ability to do it. And maybe he pairs up with Garrett Wilson and Mason Taylor really comes along this year and they make something happen of this. That's in the back pocket. But even like worst case scenario, like Tyrod Taylor had like relevance for a really long time just because he could do some things on the ground that other people couldn't do. And so like you were able to put him into your starting lineup in fantasy for 8 weeks until the rookie came in and replaced him. And, then you had to move on. So like, I feel like he's still going to hang around a long time, even if he's not a true blue starter. And Bryce Young, it's just, he's a hard one for me to really buy into. It's a team that I think if they don't do some big things this year, then we're going into year 3 of Canales, and he's going to say, well, I never got to pick my quarterback. Give me my quarterback. Because we know that year 3 is always when you're really on the hot seat if you haven't performed by year 3. And so I think that will be his plea of like, let me get my guy, and then we can make something happen. So I'm going to put Bryce Young in the bust. But yeah, all of them very, very close, obviously.
And all of them could very well bust. How about
all of them could bust?
Yeah,
all of these players on here could bust, but we could have one where all 3 of them boom. You never know. That's the interesting part about with these guys in like the late 90s, early hundreds ADP type ranges. It's like, who knows?
Can we all agree though that this is probably Justin Fields' last shot at being a bona fide starter? If he doesn't do it here, he's kind of in that realm of backup guy.
Too thirsty, buddy. Too thirsty.
So that's a no from Rich. So Rich is wrong. How about you, Garrett? Are you wrong as well? Or are you right?
I want to be wrong with Rich. If this is wrong, I don't want to be right.
Go ahead, man. Go ahead and be wrong. This is it for him, man. This is it. No way, man. This is the last shot that he's going to get to be a bona fide starter.
Falling into like that, just like he mentioned Tyrod Taylor, or like even like Geno Smith, who kind of kept coming in for a long time to like try and prove his point. It wasn't until he was like much older that he finally like, it all worked out and clicked together. So like those guys are always kind of brought. We've seen these guys like hang around, right? Like, they're brought in.
I don't think he's going to be out of the league. I think he's just going to be relegated to backup duty.
But like he'll find himself in the starter, like kind of like a Jameis Winston in his second part of the career. Like you see these guys kind of, they're brought in to compete, and then other guys just so bad. We're like, Justin Fields is starting again. Here he is. Maybe this is the time. I'm not saying he's ever going to pan out like and be a stud. Probably not. But I don't think it's the last opportunity he's going to get to be a starter.
All right. Last one. Probably the nicest looking group of players that I gave us. So I ended on a high note. But I also didn't want to give you like backup or bust for Breece Hall and guys like I'm starting Breece Hall every week. What are you talking about? But this is probably the nicest group of players. We're back at the wide receiver position. Boomin backup or bust. Jayden Reed, George Pickens, Jameson Williams. Jayden Reed, George Pickens, Jameson Williams.
I'm ready.
You ready, Rich?
Go ahead, Rich.
Let's have it.
Yeah.
Boomin, I think George Pickens. This is a team that, the defense is just okay at best. No strong running game. I do not believe in Javonte Williams there or to the running game whatsoever. I think this is a team that's going to throw the football a ton. I think George Pickens' skill set and Dak Prescott's strengths and George Pickens' strengths align perfectly. Not seeing the number one coverage now because CeeDee Lamb there all the time. I think gives him a chance to really kind of wants to get that new contract. The Cowboys want to prove they're right for trading the draft capital they did to get him. I think there's a really good chance to boom. A super talented receiver that hasn't been able to throw it all together. And some of that has been his quarterback play in Pittsburgh as well. I mean, this guy can really go out there and catch catch balls down the sideline at extremely high level. So I think his boom potential is extremely high. Who's not Jameson Williams? Who's the second one?
Jayden Reed is the other one.
I think Jayden Reed's on my bench because that Green Bay situation is very murky. It's why Matthew Golden to me was a bust. This is a team where if you look at Green Bay last year, they spread the ball around to the receivers tremendously. But even in doing that, the receivers only saw 48% of those targets. 25% went to their two tight ends in Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave. 15% alone went to Josh Jacobs, and the rest went to other running backs. So, this is a team that really likes to spread the ball around. Now, Jayden Reed came out week 1 and absolutely dominated with a high performance, but then we never saw that again. And to me, the fact that he came out, they met with his agent saying, hey, man, how's this affect Jayden Reed? And they're like, we still view him as our number one receiver. Gives me, again, it's all talk. Doesn't mean I have to believe it, but gives me at least something to hang my hat on. Oh, yeah, he's probably at least worst case number 2 target there. Matthew Golden's got to come along. So I think he's on my bench with the potential of he could boom again, right? He's got the talent. I've seen it. And then bust, I don't want to call Jameson Williams a bust, but I got to put somebody here. And I like the player, but again, you have Sam Laporta, you got Jahmyr Gibbs, you got Amon-Ra St. Brown. He can give you a 2 to 3 week window of dominating, and he'll have 2 weeks after that of not performing at a high level. So he does come with a little bit more risk on a week in, week out basis, as does a Jayden Reed, of course, as well. I mean, I guess all these guys do because they're probably
all these guys are inconsistent. Yeah.
In ADP, they're very inconsistent. It's which one can put those together. And I'm just going to put that list together on line of targets and opportunity and game script and situations for this year. And I think George Pickens is in the best, then Jayden Reed, and then Jameson Williams.
I mean, wrong again. What else is there?
I knew you were going to get on your soapbox, your Jameson soapbox, that you love him because I know you love him so much.
No, listen, I like Jayden Reed too. I actually like all 3 of these guys.
Yeah, I like him a lot too. I need to put Jameson there. I like him a lot too, man. I really do.
You're totally right about the George Pickens stuff. I do think him seeing single coverage and just having an improved offense and quarterback situation easily kind of makes him the boom here because obviously last year Pittsburgh offense was kind of a mess, and the one thing that's going to stop George Pickens from becoming a boom is George Pickens. So as long as he can figure himself out and be able to control himself, I think he's the guy that can boom pretty easily. And my bench guy is Jameson Williams. I'm not going to get on a big soapbox here or anything like that, but Jameson Williams last year finally did crack 1,000 yards. Was healthy and did that in only 15 games. So as long as he's able to stay on the field, I think he's the guy that you'd rather have on your bench than a guy like Jayden Reed, who they basically went out and got a guy in the first round at his position. They got a guy in the third round at his position. They've already got a really crowded wide receiver room there. So I just have a hard time figuring out who's going to rise to the top there. And I think it's going to be Jayden Reed, but I'm not 100% sure. I mean, he was struggling with some drops and all that kind of stuff last year. And Jameson Williams just outperformed him. He was wide receiver 22 on the year. Jayden Reed was wide receiver 29 on the year. And Reed played in all 17 games, where Jameson missed a couple of games. So I just think that alone is enough. And there's even talk about them getting Jameson more involved. The new offensive coordinator is talking about, I know I've got some good players, Omarion, blah, 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 but I want, Jameson Williams is going to be a big part of this offense, and we want to get him more involved, which just means somebody else there is going to maybe lose some targets if he's able to get some more, because he's only targeted 91 times last year, and a lot of it was downfield. He only caught 58 of them. So hopefully they can get him some more consistent looks, maybe not so much down the field. But the offensive coordinator's gushing. They're like, you just can't teach the kind of speed like that this guy has, and it's so true. So we all know that speed wins in the NFL, and Jameson Williams, I just feel like, is the guy that can be on the bench.
All right, I'm going to go with Pickens as well. So we were 3 for 3 on this one. Pickens, all the reasons you guys said, I'm going there. I went with Jayden Reed as my backup guy. Him and Jameson Williams are very close. They're both very inconsistent players. The reason I put Jameson on the bust category, I do wonder if you look at a guy like Isaac Tesla and they're saying, just in case Jameson doesn't work out, let's get a speedster that can take the top off the defense that we can develop as like our future Jameson Williams. Because third round draft capital was kind of surprising. Like, even though I liked him a lot, I remember texting the group and being like, wow, I'm actually really impressed with this kid. Definitely want to make sure we get him on like the names that we didn't get to show and that kind of stuff. But even with him going there, I was surprised that he went that high in the draft. So I do wonder if like that in the back of my mind. And with Green Bay, Jayden Reed is probably always going to be like a good wide receiver 3 type, but never gonna like ascend beyond that. So like on an average team, he's your wide receiver 3. On a good team, he's a flex play for you. And like, I feel good about that, as like, he's one of my backup receivers. I could put him in there and maybe get a big week, but really close between those two. But I do think George Pickens just has the profile to boom a little bit more than the other two.
All right. So before we get into our Isaiah Likely-O-meter, I got to tell the Dynasty Search fam, our partnership with FastDraft Fantasy continues to grow, and now the benefits are even better, right? If you haven't jumped in yet, FastDraft is that lightning fast best ball platform where drafts take under 5 minutes. FastDraft has launched the Origins Gamma Tournament, where the prize pool is up to $50,000. If you use the promo code NERDS, when you sign up in FastDraft, we'll match your first deposit 100% up to $50. That's double our previous offer before. Plus, non-members who deposit at least $10 and enter in contests will still receive that free year of our premium Nerd Herd and Dynasty GM bundle. Already a Nerd Herd member, not a big deal. Don't worry, we're going to send you a sweet Dynasty Nerds t-shirt instead. Download FastDraft app or go to draftfaster.com and draft faster. Win bigger with code NERDS. Let's continue dominating these rookie drafts together. Promo codes and t-shirts forms will be sent out on a week-to-week basis.
All right. And don't forget about my FFPC. That's myffpc.com. Head over there. You can join small leagues, just $35 leagues, or you can join some baller leagues, $2.5K entry fee into those leagues. You're taking home a nice chunk of change if you can win that. It's great because if you don't have people that are trustworthy, and look, I get it. I've seen people all the time. They join random leagues. Commissioner takes all the money and splits. You don't have to worry about that at my FFPC. They've never had a league fold, not one time. So you don't have to worry about that at myffpc.com. We're also going to give you $25. Yeah, if you're playing a huge league, it doesn't matter much, but you're a baller anyway. You don't need $25. But if you're like, I just want to get my foot in the door. I want to see what this FFPC is all about. Let me play in one of these lesser expensive leagues, the $100 league, the $35 league. Let me see what it's all about. Use promo code NERDS. We'll get you $25 off if you do that. Go to myffpc.com. Use promo code NERDS to get that $25 off your entry fee.
All right, let's dive into the Isaiah Likely-O-meter.
All right, so familiarizing you guys with this game. This is a game, for some reason, We go 1 to 10, not 0 to 10. We go 1 to 10. Somehow 5 is the halfway point, even though it should be 5.5. And you can do different scoring settings for different players. So if you have a quarterback, you can use quarter points. If you have a halfback, aka running back, you can use half points. Wide receiver, it's wide open. But tight end, we keep it tight. Full numbers only. So you're telling me the likelihood that this happens, and we have a rookie edition. This is the Isaiah Likely-O-Meter rookie edition. All right, you guys ready?
Yes.
Yeah,
Omarion Hampton is a running back 1 in his rookie season. Omarion Hampton is an RB1, so a top 12 guy in his rookie season.
4.5.
Okay.
I just think, they did sign Najee Harris. Najee Harris is a young back who, scores over 1,000 yards rushing year in, year out. And he's going to eat up enough of Omarion Hampton's rookie year. I think they're going to bring Omarion Hampton in. He can even be the starter. I think they're going to use Najee Harris just enough to take away from that running back 1 upside. And there won't be enough PPR value as well. Not enough overall touches for him to fit that running back mold. Not saying he won't show us enough that we're super excited for his future. I just feel like if you drafted Omarion Hampton to be your 2025 savior, I feel like that's a rough choice. And his ADP right now is running back 2 off the board. I think there's a good chance that Trevion Henderson outscores them. I think there's a very good chance RJ Harvey outscores them this year. I think there's a very good chance Caleb Johnson can outscore him this year, and even a chance that Quinshon Judkins could outscore Omarion Hampton in their rookie seasons. Doesn't say I believe him long term, which I totally do in that offense and that offensive line for 2026 and beyond. But I think for you to sit here and say Najee Harris is just nobody and you could scoff at him, he's not going to affect him at all, I think that's really short-sighted, and I think it's very silly of you, and I think it's a massive, massive mistake. Maybe to offer you a dip in the value for Hampton down the road, but I think for 2025, it's not a champion. Which again, if you had a 1-2, 1-3, it's not end of the world. Like you have – I'd almost prefer that, right? Like if I'm still like in the middle of that like rebuild, like, okay, yeah, come in. I love getting those rookies. I don't need to produce right. I prefer you don't, because I'm trying to lose some games here still. So 4.5 for me for Omarion Hampton.
I'll take your 4.5 and lower it. 3.5. I'm looking right now at all the guys that finished as running back 1s last year in PPR, and there's a pretty common theme here. The only guys that really were hovering around only 200 attempts rushing were Devon Achane at 203 and James Cook at 207. And James Cook had an absurd amount of touchdowns. He had 16 touchdowns to kind of keep him afloat there, along with 32 catches. And Devon Achane had 78 receptions to go along with those 208 carries. So I don't think that he's going to get the requisite amount of carries, I guess is the whole point, or just usage in general in order to get it into the running back 1 conversation. I think he's going to be a very valuable player. I think, but he's going to settle in that RB2 while he's splitting time with Najee this year.
I went with I split it down the middle at 5 because I do think that there's just as likely of a chance of Najee Harris coming in and messing things up and causing problems for him. But I think that there's just as good of a shot of him really showing a lot in the first 6, 7, 8 weeks. And we start to see Bucky Irving type takeover, Jonathan Taylor type takeover, where, early on the old running back is just kind of annoying. Rashad White, Marlon Mack, those guys are just, they're frustrating. They're annoying. But he just performs so well that they just can't help but slowly give him 50% of the work, then 52%, then 55%. Then, by the end of the year, he's getting 70% of the running back touches and he's just looking like a stud. So I put it at a perfectly even split, as likely of him doing it as not.
The one thing I guess I'll add before we get out of here on this question is Najee Harris. He's been running behind a bad offensive line basically his whole career, and he's not a guy that is going to make people miss prior to or in the hole. So I think now running behind the offensive line that he's got there with the Chargers, I think this is going to be his best kind of situation. So that's where I kind of don't know that we're going to see him kind of fade. I think this might be like a rejuvenation type of year for him, where he's finally kind of, oh, this is how it's supposed to be. This is how I kind of remember it from college, is not getting hit at the line of scrimmage or behind the line of scrimmage so often.
Real quick. I know we don't have like crazy high expectations on receiving at the running back position there, but we think back to Justin Herbert's career, he checked it down a ton, obviously, to Austin Eckler. And then even last year, a guy like J.K. Dobbins, when he was healthy, got a lot of, I shouldn't say a lot, but a good amount of checkdowns and catches and things like that. Who do we think is more likely to be the heavier pass catcher? Do we think it's Najee or do we think it's Hampton? Because I don't think either one are like special pass catchers, but we saw Najee do it as a rookie, but Hampton looked just fine doing it as well.
I think they're very similar. They're so similar.
Agreed.
It's hard to like either way. However,
okay.
I think they could see the same amount.
Whichever guy is pass protecting better will get more opportunities. You know what I mean? Like that
could be.
Yeah. I mean, I can see one, like how Cleveland used to, like one on the first series on third downs, it's all Hampton. On the very next series on third downs, it's all Najee. On the next series, it's all Hampton, right? And just kind of like mix them in that way to get them. And then by the time you get to the fourth quarter, you're riding a hot hand.
Right. Yeah. No, that very well could be true. Let's move to wide receiver here. And Jack Bech is the leading wide receiver in fantasy points for the Raiders this year. So
10.
we Jacoby Myers, obviously every year is like sneaky good every single year, but outside of him, there's really nobody else in that receiving room that's a big threat. So likelihometer on Jack Bech being the leading fantasy receiver for the Raiders this season.
That was my question, because your first way you said it was the leading fantasy score on the Raiders, because like he's not outscoring Brock Bowers or
no wide receiver.
Yeah, so it's either him or Jacoby Myers. Give me Jack Bech, baby. Love the way he moves, love the way he gets open. Matt gave it a 10. I'll give it a 9. I think Jack Bech is a big riser this offseason. I think I think his skill set fits what the Raiders need very well with Geno Smith, kind of like that Jackson Smith and Jigba player, really a really smart, savvy route runner with sure hands. So I think that's gonna be a good fix. Jacoby Myers is Jacoby Myers, right? Like nice, very nice receiver, more of a number 2 than a number 1. So I believe Jack Bech is the future in Las Vegas. So I'm gonna give that a solid 9.36.
Nice. So it's wide open, so you can do that.
Wide open, you can pick any number.
You really can. Listen, Jack Bech, and I don't want to blow this out of proportion because it was rookie minicamp, but the reports out of rookie minicamp are that he was looking really good. I mean, so that's great, right? Crazy. But honestly, I said 10 without knowing the answer to the question, or like what the question was actually going to be. Jacoby Myers he's a solid guy at the wide receiver position. He got over 1,000 yards last year. 1,027 to be exact, and 4 touchdowns. So it's not like he's like a total scrub. And so I'm having a little bit more of a hard time. Rich, you said 9.365. Is that what you, or 9.36?
9.36.
9.36. I'll go 9.37 just so I'm higher than Rich, but I don't want to go full blow 10.
I want to go high. I was trying to outdo you.
But because I want to leave the door open at least for Jacoby Myers to beat him, because I think he's a good player. I do think Jack Bech is, if he does not do it this year, he is the long-term answer there.
For sure.
Obviously, out of those two guys. So, but I think Bech could do it this year. I think he's good enough to do that.
I'm not going to be quite as bullish. I think it's more likely than not that he is the wide receiver 1 in fantasy points on the team this year. But I was going to go with like a 6.78. So I think
that seems fair, by the way. I just wanted to be higher than Rich. That's it. I didn't want it.
we got competition going. Yeah, because that's the thing. Like every year we want to write off Jacoby Myers, and every year he's like, "Hey guys, guess what? If you would have put me in your lineup all year, I would have given you wide receiver 3 numbers, but you didn't, and you picked the one week that I sucked. So sorry about that." But because it
That
does seem
sounds
to go that way.
oddly exact. Did that maybe happen to you?
But it's not hard to produce either. Like, yeah, like you read off Jacoby Myers in today's NFL, you hear him like, oh, yeah, 1,000-yard receivers, only 4 touchdowns. That's pretty solid. He was wide receiver 36 overall. So he was literally the last wide receiver 3 to get in there. So it's not like we're talking like some massive hill he has to overcome to be the number 1 scorer, right? Like
It's just hard for rookie receivers, especially, non-first 2 round receivers, to do it and to command that type of target volume right away. I think that's the hardest part. It's like if this question was like second half of the season, I'd be much higher probably. But right away, I think he's going to have to like earn it and work his way up. But we'll see.
Jacoby Myers was wide receiver 19 on what I'm looking at for the full year.
I was looking at I apologize. I had it on standard. But I have him here as Jacoby Myers. So standard. You said 19, Matt?
Yeah. That's why I got the full season 2024 PPR.
No, I have him with wide receiver 29. Weeks 1 through 17. I don't count week 18.
So he must have had a big week 18.
No, but see, again, that's why I don't count weeks 18.
Touchdowns.
Too many people sit players. Too many teams are checked out.
Yeah.
Fantasy season's over. So I'm a big like week 1 through 17 only kind of guy.
He had 27.3 points in week 18.
He was wide receiver 29, so he's a high-end wide receiver 3. So, yeah, you're right. I mean, that's why. But again, that's why Garrett's number is more realistic.
It is for sure. Yep.
All right, let's head back to running backs here. Multiple day 3 running backs in this year's class finished in the top 24 in 2025. Multiple day 3 running backs in this class finished top 24.
We're starting with like Cam Scattaboo, right? He was fourth round.
Jayden Blue. Somebody gets hurt and Jayden Giddens or a Kyle Manungai or a, like one of those kind of guys sneaks in.
You're saying at least 3 of them?
2.
At least 2. Just multiple.
2 day 3 guys sneak into the top 24 this season.
I think Cam Scattaboo, yes.
Okay.
Has got a very realistic shot of doing that. And then it's Bechal Tootin. Does he get the opportunity? Does he pass Travis Etienne? Does Travis Etienne make the roster or does he get traded before?
You got first team reps in practice.
You did?
Tootin.
Well, there's actual, conjecture out there that Etienne might not be on the team by the time the season starts. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but those are the 2 guys. So those are the 2 guys in my eyes that have the best shot at it.
The best shot. Yeah, I agree.
Even that saying, I'd still give this a 4.5 because it's still hard. There's still a ton of
uphill climb
out there. They got to stay healthy. They got to get the right amount of opportunities. They got to be the starter. It's tough, man. It's real tough. So I'm gonna give it a 4.5 for 2 of them to get in there. Because the problem too is like you have all the guys taken on the first and second day as well to join all these veterans. And there's like 5 or 6 of the guys there that you feel pretty confident about. And that's 33% of all of them as it is. And that's, I'm going
to go 5.5. A little bit better than half.
Ooh, I like it.
There's just so many rando rookies that could do something out there because this was such a draft, a running back draft heavy whatever. Draft. My brain is not working anymore. There was a lot of running backs in this draft. So I'm just going to go 5.5, slightly above 50%.
I like it. I ended up going same score as Rich on this, 4.5 on it. I would love to see, I think Cam could do it. I think a guy like Tootin could do it. I think those are the best options. Depending on injuries and things like that, you could see a guy like a Woody Marks just because of all the pass catching ability that he has, that he could sneak in PPR. Devin Neal's another one that's like really interesting to me there with the Saints. See how things go. Like they've been looking for that complement to Alvin Kamara ever since Mark Ingram was there. And they've kind of struggled to find it. So like he could do it. And then there's just like all of these rando guys that like
Manungai, if he gets the go ahead and score 18 touchdowns role in the Bears offense, he could do it. You know what I mean? Like he absolutely could.
What happens if Jonathan Taylor gets hurt again and DJ Giddens gets, 220 carries this year? Like, so I'm holding, I don't want to say holding out hope because I have a lot of Jonathan Taylor. I don't want that to happen. But I'm holding out hope on this class, even though they didn't get the draft capital that we originally expected out of them. I still think there's a lot of really interesting players in this class that, like, oh man, Jayden Blue, he caught 56 passes this year and, turned 3 of those into touchdowns, which got him to sneak into running back 24. Like that could happen.
Absolutely. It could. He could be in there like swimwear. You never know. And I think he's a very good example of a guy that could just kind of come out of the blue and do something. I am a dad. I am a dad, and that was my dad joke.
All right.
Yeah, let's move on.
Last one here. Last one. Either Loveland or Warren have a top 6 finish this season. Doesn't have to be both, just one of them. Have a top 6 finish this season at tight end.
I will give this a 6.
Okay.
And it's only because of Tyler Warren, not Colston Loveland. I think he has a legit chance to be the number 1 option in that offense, in worst case number 2. No, not worst case, because I'm not gonna undermine Josh Downs like that, but like he has a chance to be the number 2. Look at this offense. I can look at this offense trying to keep a lot of stuff short, simple. I can look at a lot of opportunity for him to be manufactured touches like he was at Penn State, him line up a halfback, in the Wildcat as well. So I think there's a good chance, once you get out of those top 4 or 5 guys, it's easy to kind of sneak up in that like 6 range. If you are the number 2 option and athletic like Tyler Warren is. So I think I give that a 6 because I would lean slightly towards yes.
I am with you, Rich. I wanted to just one up you slightly, but it's tight ends, and you have to go full points because you got to keep it tight.
Right.
And I don't feel good enough to go 7, so there's no way that I'm going to go there. And you know what? I'm just going to give this one. I'm going to go 5. I'm going to give this one to you, Rich. You're going to be on top on this one because I just don't.
5. I just couldn't.
You wanted to go 5?
5.5, like dead.
Yeah,
dead 50-50.
I think is 5.4. All right, whatever. I'm going to go 5, and that's going to be my 50-50. And
those are the rules. They don't make sense, but they are the rules.
Don't try to make sense of the senseless. That's what they say.
No, don't do it. So we have had a rookie tight end be in the top 6 3 of the past 4 years. So it has started to become more of a thing. We had Kyle Pitts, then we took a year off. Then we had Sam Laporta, and then, of course, we had Brock Bowers this year. So it is trending in that direction, but I'm still going to say a 4 that it doesn't happen this year. I think it's less likely than it is likely. It's neither one of these landing spots are terrible, but neither one are amazing either. One, obviously, the Bears, way better offense, like such a good offense. But what's the pecking order? We don't know. And that offers a lot of ambiguity there. When you look at the Colts, there's definitely a path, but it's a bad offense that isn't producing a lot of high volume fantasy
Specifically,
producers.
The quarterbacks are bad.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I think if either one of these had ended up in Los Angeles, they ended up in, like one of these places where you're just like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, give me a 9. Like I could totally see it happening. But with the landing spots, I think year 1 might be a disappointment. So I'm going to go 4.
Fair. All right. It's fun to be back in the game market.
Yeah, baby.
We're back next week with more Dynasty Fantasy Football.
Adios.